Coming up on Global Business, Presidents Xi Jinping and Joe Biden pledge to diffuse tensions and get bilateral ties back on track at their San Francisco summit. As China pledges more policy measures for the private sector, we take a closer look at how government industrial funds are supporting small and medium-sized companies. And more Chinese cities see home prices declining in October, but transaction volumes are up in the first 10 months of the year. And welcome everyone to Global Business here on CGTN. I'm Michael Wong in Beijing. We start with China-U.S. relations, where Chinese President Xi Jinping has proposed 5 pillars to ease strained relations, restore trust and respect, and push cooperation between China and the United States for the good of the world. President Xi made the remarks during a summit on Wednesday with U.S. President Joe Biden in San Francisco, California. Our Lu Wei has more.
President Xi Jinping and his U.S. counterpart Joe Biden met for a summit during Xi's first trip to the United States in 6 years. It is their first meeting in a year since they last met on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Bali. In opening remarks, President Xi underscored his long-standing view that cooperation between the world's 2 largest economies will benefit both their peoples and the rest of the world. He said China-U.S. relations should be perceived in the broad context of global transformations unseen in a century, and pointed out that major country competition cannot solve the problems related to nations. President Xi said the world is big enough for 2 countries to succeed.
My view is consistent, which is that major competition is not prevailing trend and cannot solve problems facing China and the United States or the world at large. Planet Earth is big enough for the 2 countries to succeed, and one country's success is an opportunity for the other.
During their talks, President Xi explained Chinese modernization and significance. President Xi made it clear that China does not have a plan to unseat the United States, but the Chinese president said the U.S. should not scheme to suppress China. He said that culture and social mutual respect would pave the way for more relations.
It is an objective fact that China and the United States are different in history, culture, social system, and development path. However, as long as we respect each other, coexist in peace, and pursue win-win cooperation, we will be fully capable of rising above differences and find the right way for 2 major countries to get along with each other. I firmly believe in the promising future of the bilateral relationship.
President Xi pointed out that mutual respect, peaceful coexistence, and win-win cooperation are the lessons learned from 50 years of China-U.S. relations and from geopolitical conflicts in history. He called on China and the U.S. to exert more effort in putting these lessons into practice. The Chinese president proposed building together 5 pillars for better bilateral ties. First, developing a right perception of each other, so the 2 countries can coexist in mutual respect and peace. Second, managing disagreements and untoward incidents effectively through calm, frequent communication. Third, advancing mutually beneficial cooperation, not just in traditional areas like trade, but in emerging and urgent issues such as climate change and artificial intelligence. Fourth, shouldering responsibilities as major countries by stepping up coordination and cooperation on international and regional issues. Fifth, promoting people-to-people exchanges. President Xi Jinping also reaffirmed China's position on the Taiwan question. He told the U.S. to stop arming Taiwan and support China's peaceful reunification, stressing that China's reunification with the Taiwan region is unstoppable. On trade, he urged the U.S. to lift export controls and unilateral sanctions on Chinese economic entities, saying these actions hurt China's legitimate interests. President Xi said technological innovation is a driver of China's high-quality development. Attempts to stifle the country's technological growth are moves to contain the progress of China and its people. For his part, President Biden said it was important to keep the two countries' competition in check and called for joint efforts to tackle common challenges.
We have to ensure that competition does not veer into conflict. And we also have to manage it responsibly, that competition. That's what the United States wants and what we intend to do. I also believe it's what the world wants for both of us, candid exchange. We also have a responsibility to our people and the world to work together when we see it in our interest to do so.
The U.S. president said a stable and developing China serves the interests of the U.S. and the world. President Biden reaffirmed his own 5 points. The U.S. does not seek a new Cold War or to change the Chinese system. It does not seek to strengthen alliances against China. The U.S. does not support Taiwan independence and has no intention of conflict with China. Presidents Xi and Biden acknowledged China-U.S. ties as the most important bilateral relationship in the world. They called on all countries to treat each other with respect, find a way to coexist peacefully, and maintain open lines of communication. They stressed the importance of preventing conflict, upholding the UN Charter, cooperating on areas of shared interest, and managing competitive aspects of the relationship. The two presidents agreed to promote dialogue and cooperation on emerging issues such as artificial intelligence and to resume high-level military-to-military communication on the basis of equality and respect. They agreed to further increase passenger flights between the U.S. and China early next year and expand educational, student, youth, cultural, sports, and business exchanges. The two leaders will accelerate joint efforts to tackle the climate crisis in this critical decade. After the summit, President Biden hosted a lunch for President Xi, where the two leaders' discussions on international issues included the Israel-Palestine conflict. They also took a walk at Filoli Estate and agreed to maintain regular contact.
And Chinese President Xi Jinping delivered a speech at a welcoming dinner in San Francisco on Wednesday evening. He stressed the role of people in China-U.S. relations. He said the people of both nations were fundamental in establishing and developing ties, and the future of bilateral relations will be shaped by the people. President Xi added that the two countries should put more effort into encouraging people-to-people exchanges. Meanwhile, President Xi said China is ready to be a partner and friend of the U.S. and to cooperate with the U.S. in multiple fields. President Xi said the trend of peaceful coexistence between the two countries will not change. He also encouraged the two countries to galvanize the Chinese and American peoples into a strong force to renew China-U.S. friendship and make greater contributions to world peace and development. Meanwhile, China's Ministry of Commerce said today that the country will implement the consensus reached by the leaders of China and the U.S. China will also make efforts to promote the healthy and stable development of bilateral economic and trade relations. Chinese Commerce Minister Wang Wentao and U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo met at the APEC meeting and discussed the implementation of the consensus reached between the leaders of the two countries. China's Ministry of Commerce added that a healthy and stable economic and trade relationship between China and the United States is beneficial not only to both countries, but also to the world. And for more on the key messages from the summit between Presidents Xi Jinping and Joe Biden, I want to bring in Lu Xiang, a China-U.S. relations expert from the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences. Mr. Lu, so President Xi said that the world is big enough for both the U.S. and China, and that one country's success is an opportunity for the other. What do you make of this comment and how China views the future of what is arguably one of the most important bilateral relationships in the world?
Yeah, we see that China and the U.S. are the two most important economies in the world, now is facing two different choices, whether the relation is competition-centric or cooperation-centric. China has consistently insisted that the relation should be defined by cooperation. So we see President Xi said a lot during the meeting with President Biden, and now we see the meeting between the ministers of commerce of our two countries. Apparently, the U.S. president is still insisting on the rhetoric of competition, but we also see the talks between the ministers of commerce of the two countries, and we expect that in this area, the two countries can conclude, get into a kind of conclusion to end, to diminish the trade war effects. So we are looking to some concrete results from the APEC meeting, from the context of our two countries.
Yeah, and speaking of commerce, Mr. Liu, of course, U.S. businesses in China and Chinese businesses in the United States, these are the ballasts, I would say, of China-U.S. relations as well, or a key ballast in this relationship. And after his meeting with President Biden, like we were reporting, President Xi Jinping attended a welcome banquet with U.S. business leaders. Over 70,000 U.S. companies do business here in China, with some 90% profitable last year. So as China's middle income group continues to swell, Mr. Liu, how do you see the growth opportunities for American companies here in China's consumer market?
Oh, yes. Actually, you are talking about a great number. Over 70,000 U.S. businesses have invested in China. And according to some statistics, actually the total revenue of these companies with U.S. investment, the total revenue is over, annual revenue is over 50,000 US dollars. So it's huge business here. We also see some new U.S. company like Tesla even more electric cars in China than in the U.S. And China now is becoming a leading market for new technologies. So I see very big room for U.S. companies for their business to grow in China.
And of course, President Xi also said that the future of bilateral relations will be created by the peoples of the United States and China, adding that the more difficulties there are, the greater the need for both countries to forge a closer bond between the two peoples. And President Xi also saying that China is ready to invite some 50,000 young Americans to China in the next 5 years. How important do you view people-to-people exchanges in China-U.S. relations?
Oh, yeah, great question. Actually, we heard that President Xi talked about 5 pillars for the China-U.S. For healthy China-U.S. relations, and the last one is about people-to-people exchange. In the last 3 or 4 years, because of many reasons, the people-to-people exchanges has been stalled between our two countries. And now it's restoring. And one concrete thing is about the direct flights between our two countries. And now there is actually the distance from the current level to an ideal level is still very large. And we see this kind of things has to be improved, and the two leaders have adjusted to this kind of concrete things like the direct flights. So I expect that more and more people-to-people exchanges will be seen in the next years. And the people-to-people exchange is kind of indigenous needs for aspiration, for friendship and cooperation. So we attach very much importance to people exchanges.
Yeah. Boosting people-to-people exchange is absolutely key when it comes to mutual understanding as well. Mr. Liu, many thanks for your thoughts on all of this. Liu Xiang, an expert on China-U.S. relations from the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences. Thank you. And speaking of direct flights, the number of commercial aircraft flights between China and the United States is increasing and is set to reach 70 per week. Our John Terrett reports.
I'm at one of New York's busy airports to try out the latest app on my phone.
A friend of mine is on their way to China. I've just dropped them off, and I can track their progress with this amazing app on my cell phone. It shows me the flight number, the aircraft type, the height, the speed, the location, all the way to Shanghai. I can't show you their flight because it hasn't taken off yet, but here's one recorded earlier heading to Shanghai. The number of direct flights between the US and China is soon expected to increase from 48 to 70 per week, still well below the numbers before COVID-19 struck.
For the longest time, the countries have been getting at each other, and now we see this little step in the right direction. It can only be a good sign, and hopefully this leads to better results and maybe better trade, better communication between the two countries.
According to the travel app Flightmaster, there were around 300 flights a week between the US and China in 2019. The increase from 48 to 70 follows Foreign Minister Wang Yi's visit to Washington last month and comes ahead of the APEC meeting in San Francisco. The hope is the increase in flights will bring seat prices down too.
There's going to be a strong demand, so prices are going to remain high for a little while. But as we normalize, as things get back to that normal and they increase the amount of flights, I would expect to see prices drop.
Airlines that are likely to benefit from the new higher limits include Air China, China Eastern, and the big three in the US, United, Delta, and American. It's good for the country's economies, trade, and personnel visits, but perhaps most important of all, more chances for families to be reunited.
And how is my friend getting on? Well, according to this app, the plane is at 30,000 feet north of New York, heading for the border with Canada and well on the way to Shanghai. And by the time you see this, they'll be there. John Terrett, CGTN, New York.
Well, the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC, Economic Leaders Meeting has been taking place in San Francisco. By bringing together major economies, the APEC meetings could potentially lead to a more expansive and collaborative global economy. We spoke to James Chalmers, PwC Global Assurance Leader, to get his view.
Well, we're very proud to be involved in that meeting as a knowledge partner, but I think probably like everyone else, people are looking for hope, they're looking for sustainable growth. So I think our hope, like everyone else's, and we were hearing it actually from clients we were meeting here, is that by bringing the major nations together and collaborating on opportunity, we'll see long-term growth.
There are expectations that this might be a sign of a warming up of relations between China and the US, which are the world's two largest economies. As a business, multinational business, you have a great, quite large-scale large-scale operation here in China. What would be your expectation? How do you think businesses can benefit from a warm-up of the relationship between those two?
Well, I think we all depend on one another from a business point of view. One person's supplier is, a consumer somewhere else. So I think, as I say, economically, we're looking for growth, we're looking for collaboration. We've seen a trend maybe of countries retrenching and move back into themselves. I think we'll all gain if we get to a more expansive, more collaborative global economy.
It's still to come here on Global Business. As China pledges more policy measures for the private sector, we take a closer look at how government industrial funds are supporting small and medium-sized companies.
From sustainability and digitalization to trade, health, and energy security, 21 major Asia-Pacific economies gather to address the most pressing global challenges and to create a future of sustainable economic growth. Join CGTN for our coverage of APEC 2023.
Well, China's top economic planner has pledged to do more to boost domestic demand, support private companies, and attract foreign investment. The National Development and Reform Commission said the Chinese economy maintained an upward trend in October as production and supply increased steadily and market expectations remained stable. Speaking at a press conference in Beijing on Thursday, officials said the commission would enhance communication with private companies and offer more policy support. Well, as China's financial system continues to improve, there's considerable progress being made in the construction of a multi-level capital market. Our Liu Yang spoke with one EV startup in Chengdu about the development and financing support the company has received from the local government. Take a look.
Manufacturing electric logistics vehicle from scratch to the showroom. Xiaomin and his team made that progress possible in 3 years. The company has close to 50 patents, and the new orders have come in from Kazakhstan, Turkey, Iran, and other Belt and Road countries. But Xiao says getting the Jinhu Auto on its feet was tough.
It is not easy for startups, especially private enterprises, which have a narrow escape from death. Our company has experienced this very profoundly in the past 3 years.
The company started with only 9 employees in 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. Maintaining capital flows has been a huge challenge. Early last year, Jinhu Auto was on the verge of shutting down.
In the early stages of production, our supporting factories required us to pay in full before shipping. This was a huge financial pressure. After seeking help from Orino Capital, we received an investment of 120 million, which was a life-saving straw.
General Manager Li Xiaobo says the company is a key industrial investment platform built by the Chengdu High-Tech Zone. In the next 5 years, the company is working to build an industrial fund group valued at 300 billion yuan, or over $40 billion.
This year, our investment in local companies and the industrial funds we have attracted are 3 times that of last year. Given the relatively sluggish capital market, we have established a 5 billion merger and acquisition fund to help listed companies in the Chengdu High-Tech Zone achieve merger and acquisition development.
As China's financial system continues to improve, the construction of multi-level capital markets is progressing well. Governments at all levels have established industry guidance funds, and the number of venture capital institutions has also increased significantly. Some experts say there's still room for improvement.
For example, the areas of policy support for enterprises can continue to expand, such as further strengthening investment in small businesses, early-stage investment, investment in tech companies, and innovation in a combination of financial products.
Analysts point to the significant increase in government industry guidance funds on the market. Official data shows that last year, the number of newly added provincial and municipal government funds in this category was nearly double that of 2021.
In the just concluded 2023 Central Financial Work Conference, the meeting once again emphasized how financial services for the real economy are regarded as fundamental. The meeting called for optimizing the capital supply structure and using more financial resources to promote technological innovation, advanced manufacturing, and small and medium-sized enterprises. Experts say that in future, more financial entities such as equity investment and bond institutions need to participate to create more direct financing for SMEs. Liu Yang, CGTN, Sichuan Province.
And new home prices in China declined on a monthly basis in October, yet still maintained a higher level compared to the previous year. Most first-tier cities witnessed a decrease in prices for newly built homes, with the exception of Shanghai, where prices there saw a slight increase of 0.2%. On an annual basis, however, new homes in first-tier cities were generally sold at higher prices. Beijing and Shanghai reported price increases of 2% and 4%, respectively, while Guangzhou and Shenzhen saw declines in new home prices. New home prices in second and third-tier cities fell on a monthly basis, registering declines of 0.2% and 0.5%, respectively. And China is eager to foster additional affordable rental housing projects nationwide as part of efforts to resolve housing difficulties. And that has promoted the introduction of more instruments to help finance affordable rental housing, such as real estate investment trusts, or REITs. Our Ying Junyi reports.
The idea of REITs is not new. The real estate market has been talking about them for decades. The term stands for Real Estate Investment Trust, and they are put together by brokers to channel funds into specific property projects, with yields coming from the income generated by the real estate project. In 2022, China's first 4 affordable rental housing REITs were listed and traded on the A-share market. And in the first 3 quarters of the year, all the rental housing projects under the 4 REITs reported steady performance, with the REITs' earnings exceeding 2 trillion yuan, in line with their own expectations. Housing experts say the introduction of the REITs marked an important milestone for China's rental housing market.
I think it provides a good exit and financing channel for all the investors and operators. While we know that rental housing, in terms of asset type and the operating model, it has a long return period, so REITs provides a good exit channel for that. Secondly, the REITs initiative does require a lot of criteria on the asset management performance in terms of stabilizing rental performance and occupancy rate, so that will help to drive the sustainable development and the growth of the market.
And there are more on the way. Shanghai-based Chentou affordable rental housing REITs, with Guotai Jun'an as its manager, is now under review by the Shanghai Stock Exchange. China Construction Bank also stated that the National Development and Reform Commission is assessing its own REIT application. Industry insiders say it's the huge market potential that promotes the introduction of REITs for affordable rental housing.
People in China in the next 5 to 10 years, the movement will be much more frequently compared to 5 to 10 years ago. So I think the rental market actually now provides some opportunities, some demand is there. The macro policy is more leaning towards to the property market. And compared to the traditional property investment, the REITs provides the higher liquidity for the investor to invest. So I think that's one of the major advantage for the investor jumping to REITs.
According to the Ministry of Housing and Urban-Rural Development, China plans to add 6.5 million government-subsidized rental houses in 40 key cities to help an estimated 13 million people in need of affordable housing during the 14th five-year plan period, which ends in 2025. Ying Junyi, ICIS for CGTN, Shanghai.
And that's going to do it for this edition of Global Business here on CGTN. I'm Michael Wong here in Beijing. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next time.